thanks so much for joining me today on another one of my videos. Today we have a fun topic that I wanted to talk about. It goes back to a question that I had of why our kids do not eat carnivore. As you all know, I've been on a carnivore diet for over a year now. My husband Gabriel, he eats probably more low carb, keto, paleo-ish, and that's kind of how we've had our kids eat as well. And so I just kind of wanted to talk about it today with my husband Gabriel. He's our special guest today, and just explain to you guys why we decided not to raise our kids on a carnivore diet.
Yeah, so as far as our kids go, I think it's important that you teach and instill good habits in their upbringing, especially when it comes to their diet. I personally teach health to 8th graders, and I see kids consume lots of sugar on a daily basis, and that is something they've probably done most of their lives. So as kids, I think what you feed them early on really kind of dictates what they crave and what kind of taste buds they develop. So as our kids get older, we'd like them to be able to choose what type of lifestyle or diet they for themselves. But I think instilling those good habits in them as they get older is important, and hopefully not having those cravings of lots of sugar and carbs at all times can really set them up for a lifestyle to be healthier in the future. So that being said, if they choose to live a lifestyle that's not low carb or no carb or no sugar at all, that'll be totally up to them. But hopefully with these habits that we've taught them, they won't have all those necessarily bad cravings that many others do have.
Yeah, so I guess just going off of what Gabe's saying is we want to lead more by example than force. I'm sure all you guys know that when you're forced to do something, I was having a conversation with a lady in the grocery store and I was buying liver, and she was like, oh my goodness, I had the kids with me. She was like, oh my goodness, do you make your kids eat this stuff? My mom always made me eat liver and I hate it and I never eat liver. And so I kind of want to just avoid those situations. I don't want to force my kids to eat a certain diet, especially when our kids, they don't have any health issues. They are perfectly healthy, they are thriving, and I don't want them to feel like they have to eat a certain way and be different just because it's something that we're making them do and we feel like it's the best thing for them. With that said, we definitely limit the sugar. We know that sugar is not good for our kids in large amounts, but we're not going to be crazy strict parents about it and say, oh, you can't have that, that is a sin. We just want them to learn how to make good choices, and we feel the best way by doing that is leading by example and not forcing it upon them.
And I'll be the first one to tell you I don't eat liver, so I've tried it, I don't like it. I will eat certain organ meats like heart. I enjoy heart, but I do not enjoy liver. So as far as like sugars go when it comes to our kids, I think fruits for them is kind of their sweet. Our kids really enjoy fruit. I think in moderation. I think fruit's a good thing for them to have as a treat or as a sweet. But as far as the snacks and lots of heavy carbs and
overly processed things.
Yes, and candy and all that things I don't think our kids need, because they're not getting anything out of that will benefit them. And I think as far as fruit goes, there's a lot of sugar in it, but there's some benefits, whether it's vitamins. That's why we let our kids eat fruit. And
so another point that I want to bring up, as you guys know, if you've watched my first video, I started the carnivore diet when I was 7 months postpartum with my second child, Maddie. And so she was strictly low carb carnivore. She was just drinking my breast milk until about a year old. And then I literally started her on meat and animal products. And it was kind of an experiment to see how she did and how her body reacted on it. She did really well when I was breastfeeding her and I was eating the carnivore diet. I just ran into some issues the more that I kept her on just more of a carnivore based diet, which I found kind of interesting and a little bit alarming. So our kids, they go to church and they have a Sunday school class that they go to, and Maddie was in nursery. And for snack time, they will feed them goldfish crackers. They will feed them, just different snacks here and there. And every time we would come back from church, she would just have major digestive issues. She would have blowout diarrhea, and it was just very challenging to navigate that. I know a lot of you may say, well, just tell the nursery workers not to feed her that. Well, I had the same issues when I would leave my kids with my parents, and they would feed them whatever they were eating at the house. And so I just found that it was causing more issues than we really should have. Just because I was trying to keep her on this diet, but I found out that her digestive system and just her metabolic diversity and her gut diversity was just not very good. She wasn't able to handle a lot of different foods because I was keeping her on such of a low carb strict diet. And I just felt in my mama instincts that maybe that wasn't the most healthiest thing to be doing for her when she is so young. A lot of people may disagree or not. I'm on a Facebook carnivore group just for moms, and a lot of them are like, we're feeding our kids carnivore, they're gonna grow up carnivore. And so I look at those moms and I'm like, I think that's great. I think that's awesome if that's what's working for your kid. But for our kids, it just didn't seem to work very well. It made their digestion just very sensitive, and it was very hard to even leave my kids with someone else because they would have to be cleaning up their messes or having to deal with their upset tummies. And so yeah, that's just something that I thought was a little bit alarming, and that maybe people don't always think about. That kids, I think they're meant to try a lot of different things. That doesn't mean that they have to be trying all the sweets and the weird crackers and just a lot of different foods, but they can have a good. Would you stop making faces at me? I can see
the weird crackers.
Stop, Gabriel. I was thinking of cauliflower crackers. Okay.
Anyway, as far as when they do get older, if they want to be able to enjoy a slice of pizza with their friends, their stomach will be able to handle it, right? Because if they've never had those type of carbs in their life, then they would have a really difficult time digesting it. So I don't think there's a problem with having a slice of pizza once in a while. Do I think there's a lot of benefit in it? No. But from a social aspect, as a child or kid that's growing up, that's just the reality that we live in. As an adult, if you choose to eat a certain lifestyle, typically, or your diet is a certain lifestyle, typically you have a lot more willpower than somebody that is 10, 12 years old. So, with that being said, I think if you're presented with a situation where you're going to eat some carbs, it'd be nice if your body could handle it properly when it comes to digestion. Exactly.
And that's the thing too. Like I said, our kids are healthy. I don't want to inflict any sort of conditions on them. Not saying that that's what the carnivore diet would do, but I'm just saying that I don't want them to have such sensitive guts that they're not able to function like they should when they eat something that's just a little bit off of what their normal diet would be. And we all do that at times, of where we eat something and maybe it doesn't make us feel so great. And hopefully that is a guide for them of where they say, I'm not going to keep consuming these foods that aren't so great for my body because they honestly don't make me feel good. And so if we consistently feed them a diet that is fueling their bodies and they are feeling good, they're going to be able to know the difference and hopefully, choose good options for themselves and good food choices in the future.
So that's why we choose to feed our kids a diet that's mostly low carb and rich with proteins and vitamins and minerals. That's pretty much the diet I eat. I know Sarah has a little bit different, stricter standards when it comes to no carbs or a very little amount of carbs, but our kids don't really consume a whole lot of carbs, but they do consume some. And for our lifestyle, I think it's a good balance, as long as we don't go too far one way or to the other. So with that being said, I think it does benefit them, and hopefully will set them up for success for a healthy lifestyle in the future.
Absolutely. So some people will ask, well, how do you get your kids to eat healthy foods, and how do you make that work practically in your family, with the kids, having taste for like sugar, like having fruit and things of that sort? How do you make them not want to eat all the fruit instead of the vegetables or the meat? A lot of the time I will find it easy to feed them their protein and their fat first before I give them the carbs or before I give them their fruit. That way they get filled up on the nutrient dense food, and it's kind of more of like a treat for them afterwards. Like, we like to give our kids fruit a lot of the time for a treat, like Gabriel mentioned before. And I just find it a lot easier to when they're hungry, it's a lot easier to have them eat the meat and eat the vegetables before they eat the sweet things, and that way they don't eat as much of the carbohydrates or as much of the fruit when they're already getting full from the meat that we feed them first. Another thing that you should keep in mind is don't stock your pantry full of the carbs and full in your fridge full of the fruit and of the sugar. Your kids will eat whatever you have in the house, and they'll ask for the things that they see. Like, if my kids see a bag of popcorn in the cupboard, they're going to ask for it. So if you just limit those things or save those things, like hide them away for the weekend, it's going to be a lot easier for them to make those healthy choices, because when you're hungry, you're going to want to eat food, and if there's only healthy food available, that's what they're going to choose. So that's definitely a good tip that I've found for our household, is just making sure that we always have good amounts of the healthy foods on hand.
A little health lesson. You have 3 energy sources of nutrients that provide energy for your body: carbs, proteins, and fats. And then the other 3 I like to call supplemental nutrients, which are your vitamins, minerals, and water. 6 nutrients.
Don't you all feel smarter?
So when you're referring to nutrient-dense foods, you want to have a good amount of those 6.
Yes, good balance.
Yes.
Another benefit that I've found from keeping our kids low carb is that the mood swings are a lot less frequent in our house. I learned quick and early that when I would give my kids sweets and treats, that they would start whining and throwing fits and complaining a lot more, and they would want more of that sweet instantly right away. And so
even with it still in their mouth,
they would be begging and screaming for it for more. And I just saw the signs of sugar addiction right away, and that kind of threw up the red flags for me, just knowing my issues that I've had with sugar in the past. And so that really was good motivation for me, to realize that my kids are, just as susceptible to these feelings about food and having unhealthy relationships with food and sugar in particular. And so I just really wanted to be able to be a good role model for them, me and Gabriel both, that they don't need to have large amounts or consume large amounts of the sugary foods or the heavy carb loaded foods, and that they will obviously feel a lot better. They will feel more in control of their emotions when they are eating a more balanced diet and not such a westernized sugar-filled diet. So I guess we're going to end off here with what do our kids eat, what do we like to feed them, and if you've seen any of my What I Eat in a Day videos, you'll see clippets of what my kids will usually eat for like breakfasts and lunches and some dinners. Usually I try to give them a protein, whether that be steak, chicken, pork, bacon, anything like that, and then I'll usually put a side of veggies with that, and that will usually be like their either lunches or dinners. And then for breakfast, I like to do a lot of different egg dishes. They like scrambled eggs with cheese on top. They like boiled eggs. I can even do like egg muffins for them. And then for, sides, they also like olives. They like, those little grape tomatoes. They like pork rinds. We will give them fruits such as grapes, bananas, apples, really whatever cheap and in season. The other day I tried for the first time making a carnivore pizza. It was actually more keto because I put red tomato sauce on it, but they loved that. They gobbled that up. And so just being really thrifty, I guess, in the kitchen and figuring out how to make fun foods like pizza but using better ingredients. And so I definitely love that the foods that I make carnivore for them are gluten-free, and that they have less sugar in them, and that they're more high fat, low carb. And so just finding different recipes. I mean, there's tons out there, and just even having fun in the kitchen. Hopefully on this channel I'll be able to share more recipes with you guys that I've been using and I've been finding, and that my family has been enjoying. And I'd love to share that with you guys as well, so that you will have a couple backup recipes in your sleeve for your kiddos to try, and hopefully that they will love them just as much.
Sleeve.
In your sleeve, in your back pocket,
Oh.
and pull out,
In your sleeve. Never heard that one before. Maybe you could say up your sleeve. I've heard that.
If you're not wearing sleeves, it doesn't really work either. Anyways.
In your sleeve.
Yes. Another thing that my kids love is things like sausages, bratwurst, hot dogs. So those are always a really easy to go to lunch. They also love nuts, and so that's a nice high fat, good protein, low carb snack that they can eat, as long as you're making sure that they are the low carb kind of nuts, like pecans, walnuts, macadamia nuts. They do love cashews, and those are a little bit higher in carbs, but they are a nice softer nut, and so that makes it easy for them to eat. And then, like any other kid, as long as they don't have allergies, my kids love peanut butter. They love breakfast sausage. And so there's actually, when you think about it, a lot more things that you can feed your kid that is low carb and that is healthy. You just gotta, be a little bit more proactive about it. And so with this channel, I hope to give you guys just some more ideas of how you can help your family live a healthy lifestyle and live low carb. And I know it's a lot easier to give your kids the carbs, and it's a lot easier and quicker and cheaper, really, sometimes, to feed your family, the convenient things. But if you're creative and you look up different recipes, you'll actually find that it's really fun to cook with your kids in the kitchen and to make healthy meals with them. So that's pretty much all we have to say about that. I hope that you guys really enjoyed this video today, and that we were able to answer that question of why our kids do not eat carnivore. I really enjoyed having Gabriel with me here today. He's a trooper for coming on the video with me. And yeah, if you guys have any further questions, leave them down in the comments below. I'd love to see what your guys' thoughts are on how you feed your kids, and if you've had any similar experiences like we have. And yeah, we just really appreciate you tuning to this video, and I can't wait to see you all in the next one. See you guys later.